Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for December the 26th. Today we are going to be reading together in Esther chapter 5. Hope that you are having a great Tuesday. Hope that you enjoyed a wonderful holiday weekend. Hope that everybody had a very Merry Christmas, time spending together with family and loved ones. We're very thankful for God's blessings in each and every one of our lives. And we're thankful to continue on in our daily Bible reading to finish up for this year. Have just a few chapters left here in the story of Esther. As I mentioned today, we're going to continue on in chapter 5. If you might recall from a few days ago, whenever we read through the first four chapters, we have gotten up to the point where we are going to see the response of Esther to Mordecai's imploring of her to do something for her people Israel. Who knows, Esther? Maybe you were put in this position for exactly such a time as this. Maybe God helped to elevate you to this position so that when this bad and horrible possible extinction of our people shows its face, maybe you have been put in this position to be able to stand up against it and to do something about it. Because after all, how crazy is it to think that a Jew, a foreigner, an exile, had found her way into the queen's throne? What a crazy coincidence. But like Mordecai says, maybe you were put in a position for such a time as this to be able to have influence over the king and to save your people. So let's notice Esther's next steps that she's going to take here within this story here in Esther chapter 5. Remember, going back to chapter 4 and verses 15, 16, and 17, she tells Mordecai for all the Jewish people to be dedicated to fasting for her, to not eat or drink for 3 days. And she says, neither will I nor my female servants eat for or drink for 3 days. We are going to put ourselves completely in the hands of God. We're going to trust in him, and things will turn out as he wills. So let's notice what she's going to do on that third day here in Esther chapter 5 and verse number 1. Esther chapter 5, verse number 1. On the third day, Esther dressed in her royal clothing and stood in the inner courtyard of the palace facing it. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the royal courtroom facing its entrance. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard, she gained favor with him. The king extended the gold scepter in his hand toward Esther, and she approached and touched the tip of his scepter. "What is it, Queen Esther?" the king asked her. "Whatever you want, even to half the kingdom, will be given to you." "Well, if it pleases the king," Esther replied, "may the king and Haman come today to the banquet I have prepared for them." The king said, "Hurry and get Haman so that we can do as Esther has requested." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. While drinking the wine, the king asked Esther, "Whatever you ask will be given to you. Whatever you want, even to half the kingdom, will be done." Esther answered, "This is my petition and my request. If I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and perform my request, may the king and Haman come to the banquet I will prepare for them. Tomorrow I will do what the king has asked." That day Haman left full of joy and in good spirits. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and Mordecai didn't rise or tremble in fear at his presence, Haman was filled with rage toward Mordecai. Yet Haman controlled himself and went home. He sent for his friends and his wife Zeresh to join him. When Haman described for them his glorious wealth and his many sons, he told them all the king had honored him, told them all how the king had honored him and promoted him in rank over the other officials and the royal staff. "What's more," Haman added, Queen Esther invited no one but me to join the king at the banquet she had prepared. I am invited again tomorrow to join her with the king. Still, none of this satisfies me, since I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate all the time." His wife Zeresh and all his friends told him, have them build a gallows 75 feet tall. Ask the king in the morning to hang Mordecai on it. Then go to the banquet with the king and enjoy yourself. The advice pleased Haman, so he had the gallows constructed. And that is the reading of Esther chapter 5. Esther chapter 5. Yes, we read at the end of chapter 4 where she implored Mordecai and the Jews to follow her and her female servants in fasting from food or drink to prepare themselves spiritually for this very important moment in which they are going to try to figure out how they can survive this plan that Haman has concocted in order to exterminate the Jews. So she musters her courage. Certainly, I think this would have been spurred on by her spiritual focus she had had through the fasting. But she also prepares herself spiritually in putting on her royal clothing, and then she goes and does what was the scariest part about all this, presenting herself to the king without the king having requested her presence. Remember, that's what she was fearful of whenever Mordecai, through the messenger, what was his name? Mathot, through the messenger, Mordecai had implored her to present herself to the king and to beg for the people on her behalf. And Esther was scared to do that because you don't just present yourself to the king. You need to be requested. And she says, I haven't been requested for an entire month. I'm really putting myself out there. And that's whenever Mordecai encourages her to take courage and says, hey, if you don't do this, God, something's going to work out for us. But who knows? Maybe you were put in this position for such a time as this. Again, remember, God is not mentioned at all through Esther. So we're reading between the lines here, recognizing the confidence they have in God to care for his people. So Esther has presented herself, or has prepared herself spiritually. She has prepared herself physically, and now she musters her strength and she presents herself in the courtyard. The king sees her, and the text says that she gained favor in his eyes. He extended the gold scepter, which was a sign of peace and a sign that he was fine with her having presented herself in his presence. And he asked the question, what is it, Queen Esther? Or, what's the matter? Whatever you want, even a half the kingdom will be given to you. Again, just more exaggeration on behalf of the Persian. But Esther does not want half the kingdom. She wants something simple. She says, I prepared a banquet and I would love for you, the king, and for Haman. Remember, Haman has been exalted to a very high position within the kingdom. The way it is described in chapter 3 is that the king promoted Haman in rank and gave him a higher position than all of the other officials. So Haman really, in his mind, in his own mind, and really in the eyes of the king as well, he is a VIP. He is a very important person, and Esther requests his presence at this banquet as well. So the king says, "Sure, let's do it. Let's get Haman and let's all gather for this banquet that you have prepared." So we see that not only has Esther been fasting, but she's also been preparing and planning in this way. She has been planning this banquet. And the way this is going to work is she's going to end up having two banquets. This first banquet that is described beginning of verse number 6, the king once again says, whatever you want, ask of it, up to half the kingdom. And Esther does not ask for half the kingdom again. Instead, she asks for a second banquet. She asks for a second banquet. So why have two banquets? Why not, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, why not do what she does at the second banquet in the first banquet? I'm going to suggest to you that she does what she does the way she does it because this first banquet is all about gaining affection from the king, feeding his belly, getting his spirits all drubbed up, and so that she might make the very strong request in the second banquet. But also I think what she does here is she provides this banquet and includes Haman in this banquet in order to disarm him, to get his head even more inflated than it currently is at this time, so that he's not suspecting anything, so that he's caught off guard and is unprepared to face what Esther is about to put before him. So that day, after Haman and the king are full of joy and they're in good spirits, they've ate and they drink and they're happy, they're merry. Haman leaves this banquet. On the way, he sees stinking Mordecai, and that just really drives him crazy because Mordecai, again, does not show him the respect that he feels like he deserves. But instead of blowing up in this moment, he controls himself, the text tells us. He goes to his home, sends for his friends. Um, He invites them to join him, and he describes everything that he got to enjoy. Again, the banquet worked. It did. It completely disarmed Haman. It made him feel like he was a very important person. And he brags about the fact that he even gets to come to a second banquet. Oh, look at that. Queen Esther has invited no one but me to join the king at the banquet she has prepared. He is so full of himself. He is so full of himself, which again I believe is Esther's plan throughout all this, to get him disarmed, to get him thinking that there is nothing, that there's nothing going on behind the scenes whatsoever. So he says, I've got all this stuff going for me, but then he gets back to the thing that's irking him. He's getting back to the splinter in his finger that he can't get out, and that splinter's name is Mordecai. None of this satisfies me, since I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate all the time. I see him in this important position, and yet he doesn't respect me in his in my important position. I hate this guy. He's just driving me crazy. He is a thorn in my side. So what does his wife and his friends tell him? He says, hey, you're powerful. You're important. You have influence. Just have some gallows built, and you can kill him on those gallows. Have the gallows built. Ask the king if you can hang Mordecai on them, and you do that. Go to the banquet. Enjoy yourself. And this advice pleased Haman, so he had the gallows constructed. He had the gallows constructed. So Haman has his plan now. He knows how he's going to try to go forth with this. That he is going to just get rid of the Haman thing. Yeah, or excuse me, get rid of the Mordecai thing. Get rid of that annoyance. Yes, Mordecai will be killed whenever this is carried out on the 13th day of Adar. Yes, I recognize that. That's going to happen, but he's going to get rid of this even faster, and then he's just going to be double dipping on his satisfaction once he's able to kill the rest of Mordecai's people as well. Haman, again, a terrible person. He is a prideful, arrogant fool, very much a fool, and he's going to be found out very, very quickly, or he is going to find out very, very quickly just how foolish he has been and just how much he has been played by Mordecai and Esther. So Esther here summons courage. But again, let's think about this for a second. Notice that not only do they fast, and I believe that the fasting here is a sign of them putting their faith in God, but she doesn't just fast and put her faith in God, she still does something. And again, I think that's an important principle for us to recognize, that just because we trust God and believe that He is in control and give ourselves into His control, that doesn't mean we don't just sit back and do anything. Think about somebody that's sick. We pray for those people to be healed. We prayed for them to have peace, but we don't stop them from going to the doctor. No, we trust in God, yes, but we also recognize what He has given us in order to address the issues that we're facing. We take advantage of them when we give Him thanks and glory for those things as well. That's what I see Esther doing here. Yes, she's trusting in God, but she's also acting within her control and doing what she can to help to remedy this situation that is facing her, Mordecai, and her people. And again, she's just setting Haman up for a very, very big fall, a fall that we are going to get to read about tomorrow in chapters 6 and 7. Chapters 6 and 7 are both short chapters, so we will read both of those tomorrow as we continue marching our way through the text of Esther, making our way to the end of our daily Bible reading for this year. If you have any questions or comments about this text here in Esther chapter 5, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. And I do appreciate you taking some time to read along with me today on this Tuesday. Again, hope you had a great holiday weekend and hope that you're ready to finish out our read for this year here in 2023. 2024 is quickly approaching. I'm really excited for what is in store for us then. But I hope you will come back again tomorrow, read along with me as we read together Esther chapter 6 and Esther chapter 7 to see the end of Haman and show just how much he has been played and how completely blindsided he is by it. Again, thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you tomorrow. Take care and God bless.